morning. I'm Carlton Sharp, pastor of Faith Christian Center Church, right here in Beaumont, Texas. And we're here on what's happening in our neighborhood. And today, my special guest is Mr. Mike Getz. Welcome, Mike.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a native of Port Arthur. I graduated from Thomas Jefferson, and then I went to Lamar University. And after I graduated from Lamar University with a degree in education, I decided to go teach school for a little bit. And that was fine, but then I had an opportunity to do something that I really enjoyed, which was go work for the Boy Scouts of America.
Wow.
I'm an Eagle Scout. I got my Eagle Scout when I was 13 years old, and to go work with Boy Scouts was something that I really enjoyed. And I did that for several years, but it didn't pay too well. It was really rewarding, but I needed to make some money. I had a young family, so I went to work for the post office. And I got to tell you, working for the post office paid pretty good, but that was hard work.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember one time in a driving thunderstorm with lightning crashing all around me and carrying Sears catalogs and dogs barking, and I'm going, boy, I didn't go to school to do all this. This is terrible. And so I remember a friend of mine said, well, look, Mike, you've got the aptitude to go to law school. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm 30 years old. That's kind of old to start law school. And he said, well, look, you can be 30 years old and you can still be a mailman.
Wow.
Or you can be 30 years old and be a lawyer. It's your choice. And when you put it like that, I said, I think I'll give it a try. So I went to law school in Houston. I worked my way through law school carrying mail, actually. And sometimes I'd go to law school in my mailman's uniform. But, I did that. And when I graduated law school, I came back to Beaumont. And I've been practicing law in Beaumont ever since then.
So Mike, you're currently on the city council and you're running for re-elections.
Right.
So talk to us about the process.
Well, the process is it's strenuous. It's tough. You got to get out there, and every one of the city council members, not the at-large, but the ward candidates, represent about 30,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's equal population,
Okay.
so 120,000 people in Beaumont divided by 4. So we got 30,000 constituents in Ward 2. That's the area of Beaumont that I serve. It's the west end of Beaumont, and I've been there since 2011. And I've been doing a lot of block walking, a lot of talking, a lot of campaigning, and visiting with people. And it's really good to get out there and visit with people and hear what they have to say.
So what are some of the biggest challenges, issues that we face right now in the city of Beaumont?
Well, I think the biggest challenges that we face is infrastructure. It's always going to be a continuing thing with infrastructure,
right.
Because as soon as you fix a road or fix a sewer line or a water line, it's just like when you drive that car off the car lot. Things start to deteriorate right then. So it's a cycle. You can fix it, but then it's going to start wearing out, and you've just got to continue to try to get ahead of it.
Uh-huh. So how do you, as a council person, serve Ward 1 and
Ward 2.
Ward 2 right now?
Well, what I really pride myself in is being accessible and responsive to my constituents. When somebody contacts me with a concern they have, they know that they're going to get a response, and they know that I'm easy to reach. When I'm out talking to people, I always give them a card with my cell phone number on it and my email address. And people know that if they have a problem, they can reach out to me and I'll get fixed. Sometimes it can be difficult to contact City Hall. I know we have the 311 system, and that's good.
Right.
But sometimes things get lost or in the shuffle, and they know that if they have a councilman that they can count on, they can expedite some of these things that they have problems with.
So when it comes to spending tax dollars, do you consider yourself a financial conservative?
I do, and let me give you a couple of examples of that. And I guess the biggest one most recently has to do with the AT&T building.
Okay.
And that was in the news a lot. It was in the news because the city administration wanted to buy that building and demolish it. And I questioned that because it didn't seem to make a lot of financial sense to me. I said from the get-go, this should be done by the private sector. The city doesn't have any business in doing downtown real estate development, especially when we did not have a plan to do something with it if we were to acquire the building and demolish it. Now, I understand the city purchasing land if we need to build a new fire station or if we need to do something for the people, but this was just going to be sitting there as an empty lot. We didn't have anything planned for it. And it would have cost us at least $2 million to buy the building, and then another $1 million to tear down the building, so it would be $3 million into something.
Then what about the tax roll?
It would come off the tax roll. See, the tax roll, right now, the building's sitting there empty. Just sitting there empty. It generates over $100,000 in taxes a year. So I said, you know, we would lose that, and then we'd tear it down and we'd have a lot. The land itself would be only worth $450,000. So it would be $3 million into something to acquire a $450,000 piece of property. None of that made sense to me. And again, I had been approached by people in the private sector saying, hey, I'm actually interested in buying the building and fixing it up and making it into office space. So there was an auction in February, and the city participated in that auction. But as I said, and as I predicted, somebody in the private sector outbid the city. But I think it was wrong that they had to go against the city and bid against the city with their own tax dollars to acquire something to help their business plan. So none of that made sense. Now, I will tell you this, Pastor, some people think when I was the only one out there that makes me divisive. I call it doing my job.
Okay. So what accomplishments are you most proud of pertaining to the city of Beaumont?
Well, you know, as one single council member, you can't do a whole lot by yourself.
You got to have 4 votes.
You got to have 4 votes. But there are some things you can kind of push and initiate, and some of the things that I really am proud of doing is the Oktoberfest. The Oktoberfest, if you haven't ever been out there, it used to be that the city would do a concert in the park, in the big parks. They do one in Magnolia, and a lot of people come. They do one at Terra Park, a lot of people come. That was always done with Juneteenth. We had 10,000 people out at Terra Park. But they'd always do the one at Rogers Park in the summer, in July. It was 112 degrees, you know, and we're trying to get people to come out there, and you know, we're spending all this money on bands, and we might have 30 people show up, and I'm just going, it's just not right. And so I said, you know, I talked to the city manager about it. I said, look, if we just consider moving this to October and making it an Oktoberfest, I bet people will start coming out. And he liked that idea, so we ran with it, and now we're getting thousands of people to come out there for Oktoberfest, and it's real popular. So that's one thing. I also had a big role in getting Uber to come to Beaumont. Uber, of course, is now all over the place, but back in 2016, they were still starting up, and they were having some battles with taxi cabs in some of the cities, and you know, the taxi cabs, they didn't like Uber. They didn't come in their business.
Infringing on their business.
That's right. So they were having this big thing, and you know, I asked Uber, what would a model ordinance look like for y'all to come into Beaumont? And I corresponded with them back and forth, and we got what the ordinance would look like. And when I had it, I presented it to the city manager. I said, we need to have a workshop on this within the city council. And we did, and we got the ordinance passed, and they came into Beaumont. And now it's thriving and doing well, and yeah, people are doing well. Another thing I'm proud about doing is, you know, you can see on our emergency vehicles, in God we trust. Now, some people might think that's not important. Why would we even, you know, spend money doing that? Well, we didn't spend any money. I paid for them. Okay, and I think it is important because when you have our emergency responders going out there in harm's way, if they see that and they have even a little bit of reassurance that God is watching over them, to me, I think that's important. And I'm glad that you know, I didn't want anybody to say anything about taxpayer dollars being used. I just decided to pay for them. So I did that, and I'm real happy about that. I'm real pleased with the sidewalks that we've been able to put in along Dowling Road, along Major Drive, along McLean. We've done a lot of sidewalks in the West End, and we needed to because somewhere the traffic's and somewhere urban planners had gotten away from doing sidewalks when these roads were being put in. You know, some of the older parts of the city, they actually have sidewalks.
They do.
You know, but here in the West End, when those streets were being put in initially, there weren't sidewalks going along with them. Everybody was in cars, you know. So you know, now we see people do like sidewalks, and you know, they're valuable, and so they're being put in, and I'm very pleased with that.
So what can be done to promote the growth and development here in Beaumont?
Well, I think the city needs to work closer with the chamber. I think the Chamber of Commerce has a new dynamic executive director. I've met with him a couple of times, and I really like him, and I think that the Chamber of Commerce working hand in hand with the City of Beaumont would really benefit everybody. The Chamber historically has done a great job of getting economic development and industry and getting big plants to come in, and we are in a boom time for that. But there's other aspects of economic development that need to be addressed as well. We're starting to see some. We're getting more restaurants in that we haven't had here before. We're seeing houses being built. People are moving in here. We're going to have an increase in our population this year for the first time in many, many years. So it's a lot of good things like that. We also need to work closer with the school district hand in hand. I was very involved in trying to get the school district straightened out. They went through a really, really bad time, and the state ended up having to come in and take over the school district. And that was a very sad time and a very divisive time in Beaumont's history. I think we've moved past that now.
Okay.
I think we are transitioning back to an elected board of trustees. We need to always be mindful of the mistakes that were made, though. We can't forget about those because we don't want to repeat them.
Right. So how's the campaign going?
Campaign's going good. I have walked a lot of blocks, a lot of miles. I lost a little bit of weight. It's all right. It's all good. It's all good. The really gratifying thing, though, is talking to people and seeing what they think. And I'd say 95% of the people I talk to and ask them, well, what do you think about things here in Beaumont? They like it. They say it's good. I like what I see.
Okay.
And I try to make sure that they know that they have someone they can call and ask if they have any issues or concerns.
Now, Mike, I always like to, with everyone, make sure that people understand the process of voting for city council, because there are 4 votes that they get for city council. Can you explain that to our audience?
I can. The city is divided up into 4 wards, and whichever ward you live in, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you can vote for your ward councilman. That's 1 vote.
That's 1 vote.
Now, there's 2 council positions that are at large, and they run for the entire city, and they overlook the entire city, and you can vote for 2. I think there's 7 people running for 2 positions. And so the top 2 vote getters will be those 2 council member at large. And then the mayor also overlooks the entire city, and you can vote for any of the candidates for mayor.
Good. Now, listen, early voting begins April the 22nd, ends on April the 30th, and then the election day is Saturday, May 4th.
Correct.
And so Mike, in our closing moments, what would you like to tell the people who are watching today about Mike Getz?
Well, Mike Getz is someone that is here for you, that will be there if you need anything addressed. I pride myself in being responsive to constituent concerns, and I will get back to you. I do always return my phone calls. I always return my emails, and I will get you results.
Well, listen, I want to thank Mike for coming today to share with us on what's happening in our neighborhood, and I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on our broadcast.
Strong communities deserve a strong advocate, one that is accessible, available, and active in taking action. I'm Ward 2 Councilman Mike Getz, and I'm seeking re-election to continue serving the community I love. I have fought hard as your public servant here in our great city, and will continue to work for you in building an even better Beaumont together. I'm Mike Getz, and I'm asking for your vote to re-elect me as your Ward 2 Councilman.